Is it really possible to have an original thought or idea? All of our ideas that we have in this world are influenced by somebody else. We're all influencing each other. It's funny because I remember being in college and I took a philosophy class, and I told my philosophy professor, I was like, he was talking about plagiarism, and I was like, but professor, what if plagiarism is just an illusion? Because who really owns an idea? It's all influenced by somebody else. So how can you trace the source of an idea? Because even if we say that the law of gravity was, discovered by Newton, well, Newton technically doesn't own that idea, does he? That idea came from the universe or whatnot. And how do we really know where all of our ideas come from? Like the idea of racism or the idea of politics and all this stuff. It's all influenced by each other. And so who do I cite? Because nobody owns their idea. It's an ego sneaking in and taking ownership of an idea that maybe actually wasn't yours in the first place. Because there's scientists that have had discoveries in their dreams. I don't know if it was Einstein or it was some scientists that had like a whole discovery in their dream. And the thing is at what point does an insight happen to you versus you creating the insight? So if an insight happens to you, can you really take ownership of the idea? What if the idea is actually owned by God or owned by the universe? Whatever you believe in. Do human beings really actually own their ideas? Why do we assume that humans own their ideas? Now, I want to make a counter argument to this, and it's that there are original ideas out there. It's not just influenced by each other. It's not just, a whole social game of people influencing each other, but there is that influence, but there's also the idea, there is the possibility of having a new original thought outside of your culture, outside of your influence. Look at George Lucas, look at Star Wars. That was influenced by Christianity, Buddhism, Taoism, Eastern thought, right? The Force. But you have to look at, the whole concept of the aliens in there, and even the whole concept of a lightsaber itself, that was an original thought and idea. It combined laser and sword, which already exist, but there's never that combination, I don't think, ever in existence before that. Maybe not. But that itself is an example of an original idea. And maybe George Lucas does deserve to own that idea if he came up with that. But I don't know. What do you think about this topic of original ideas and ownership of ideas? At what point do we own an idea versus it being borrowed from somebody else, being influenced by somebody else? Because we didn't create English, you didn't create English, so any ideas that you have inside of the language of English, how can you take ownership of that if you don't really even own the language that you're using? But that's for your contemplation.